Okay, thank you for your patience as we kind of worked through some of the technical stuff. I'm Adrienne Beck, and I am not either the chair or the vice chair, both of whom are absent today. October is a very busy month, so I'll be facilitating this meeting. We'll go ahead and call the Local Emergency Planning Committee for October 14th, 2025 to order. And we'll start off with introductions. Remember that this meeting is being recorded by Missoula Community Access Television as part of the Media Access Grant donated to Missoula County. It will be aired later on MCAT channel 189 or 190 and downloaded to MCAT's video on demand at a later date. With that in mind, for the audio capture, we do need you to speak into the mic to ensure that that is captured for the recording. So with that, I'm Adrienne Beck. I'm the director for the Missoula Office of Emergency Management. And we'll just go around the room.
Shasta Steinweden, Montana DEQ.
John Rassman, Montana DEQ.
Leanne Allegretto, National Weather Service, Missoula, hydrologist, meteorologist.
Dave Strohmeyer, Missoula County Commissioner.
Mark Libacek, University of Montana, Environmental Health and Safety.
Trent Drinkwalter, University of Montana, Environmental Health and Safety.
Tim DeFores, Missoula County Citizen Representative.
Bob Campbell, Missoula City Council.
Kelsey Alling, Water Quality District.
Pam Whitney, Missoula Public Health.
Matthew Mill, CHS Pipeline Terminal.
I'm Angela Gebhardt with the City Public Works Safety.
Tina Hayes, MCPS trustee and the Director of Training and Technical Assistance at the Montana Safe School Center.
Eric Lickvold, United Way.
Mailer Manson, Team Rubicon.
Brian Hensel, Deputy Director, Streets.
Ari Cornelius, City Citizen Representative, Missoula Fire Department.
Jake Ashbrook, Mountain Line Chief Safety Officer.
Paul Finley, Missoula Rural Fire District.
Rebecca Wallace, Missoula County Search and Rescue.
Julia Gore, Missoula Public Health.
Caitlin Nielsen, St. Patrick Hospital.
Winnie Lohoff, American Red Cross.
Tim Jacobs, Community Emergency Response Team and County Citizen Representative.
Steffi Novak, Community Emergency Response Team.
Matt Heimel with Missoula County Floodplain.
Tim LaRoche, Missoula County Wildfire Mitigation.
All right, thank you, everybody. All right, next item is public comment. Any public comment for items not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move on to our next order of business, which is to approve the minutes from the last meeting. Nick Holloway sent out these minutes with the agenda for today's meeting. I'm not aware of any changes that were suggested. There's a copy on the back table. I'd entertain a motion to approve. Motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, minutes are approved. Thank you. Next, we have our community preparedness presentation from DEQ. John and Shasta.
John gets to start.
I get to go first. Good afternoon, everybody. First of all, thanks to the Office of Emergency Management for having us here and let us do our little spiel on DEQ spill reporting and emergency response. You can see the presentation all around the room. Again, my name is John Rassman. I'm a duty officer coordinator and a state on-scene coordinator. This is Shasta Steinweden. She's the complaint coordinator and also a state on-scene coordinator. And how to find us at our office at DEQ. A couple different contact numbers there for you and some information on our website too. We have a 24/7 duty officer phone that is carried, well, 24/7, 365 by our duty officer here at DEQ. That number's there, 431-0014. Most of our calls are we get on that line from DES, Montana DES. It is not a general sort of complaint hotline. It is a phone that is an emergency response phone and should only be used if there's a real spill incident or some sort of an incident involving the environment that we need to know about. For your, I'll call it garden variety complaints, I guess, you can call our main line in the enforcement program, which is where Shasta and I are. It's 406-444-0379. That's staffed regular office hours, basically 7 to 5 every day. And that's for anything from air quality to, say, sediment, water quality, any sort of environmental complaint, you can contact it. You can also use our website, which is the online complaint form, and use that. It's a handy tab that's at the bottom of the page, in our enforcement page. And you can attach all sorts of information if you have pictures or additional information regarding a complaint that you might have or a concern. You can attach it there too. So all kinds of ways to contact us. So we're going to talk about spills at first here and what must be reported, what is required to be reported. First bullet, spills, releases or spills of hazardous substances in amounts that meet or exceed the reportable quantities in 40 CFR 302. That's a very large list of basically hazmat or dangerous chemicals. It's around 300-ish, I think, that need to be reported. And we can help you regarding determining the reportable quantities for that. It's something that we have to look up to. We don't know all 300 chemicals and what the reportable quantities are, but those are the type of things that need to be reported. The second one is a spill, overfill, or suspected release from underground storage tanks and petroleum storage tanks. That's important. Those folks have a 24-hour requirement to report an incident like that, and so we need to be informed of that as soon as possible. They are eligible for, I believe it's $1 million of the cleanup fund with the petroleum tank release fund. So if they get reported in time within the 24 hours, that lets them be eligible for that fund. So we need to have that reported. And any release or spill of any material that can lower the quality of groundwater below water quality standards. So basically, something that could affect groundwater needs to be reported. Now, what should be reported? We don't have a spill reporting rule. We have a spill reporting policy. So it's a please report this to us. So what should be reported to us? Anything that may enter a state water or a drainage that could lead directly to surface water. A spill that will cause a sludge emulsion beneath the surface of the water or stream bank or shoreline. A spill that causes a film, a sheen, or changes the color of the water, stream bank, or shoreline. Or a spill of 25 gallons or more of any petroleum product needs to be or should be reported to us. We'll take anything under 25 gallons as well. 10 gallons of hydraulic oil is a little bit different than 10 gallons of mineral oil. But that is what should be reported to DEQ. And the minimum information that we need when we do get this type of information. We need a responsible, the first three in red are the biggies. Responsible party, a name, address, and phone number if available. If it's truck wreck, that DOT number, that's a big one. We can track down the trucking company information through that pretty easily. And the location. If you got the mile marker, the highway, interstate, that's good. If you have a lat long, that's even better. Those are the first three that we really, really need when we get a spill reported to us. We need all that information, including the date and impacts to water. What is it? So maybe a description of the incident is helpful, and what actions might be getting taken at the time if the spill is threatening a river or a creek. What's being done to maybe prevent that from entering the water. All those are important, but really the big three are the ones that are in red. Without that, we can't do much. And without the responsible party, we can't follow up with them because it's incumbent upon the responsible party to clean up the spill. We contact them and let them know their requirements. So without that, we can't do much. What do we do once we get that information? Well, like I just mentioned, we will contact the responsible party for the spill and inform them of the cleanup requirements. We'll review the cleanup report, hopefully eventually when it gets cleaned up, and determine the actions that they did take are sufficient. If not, we'll ask them to go back and give it another try. But without that information, the minimum information that I was talking about, we simply can't follow up, and the contamination will remain in place. We don't have a fund to deal with orphan spills right now. It'd be nice to have a little pot of money to be able to address those, but right now we don't. So we have to get the responsible party to be responsible and take care of it. We have a pretty good success rate, probably around 90% of the incidents we get cleaned up, but there's a lot. It's a big state and there's a lot of roads, so some of them are still sitting out there. And with that, I'll move to Shasta and she can talk about our emergency response program.
Cool. Go ahead. All right, like John said, we do have a 24/7 person on the phone who can reach other DEQ people if assistance is needed. So unless it's John or I who are packing the phone, that duty officer is not an on-scene coordinator. And we'll get to this slide later, so I'll just move on to it. But that number is for reporting hazardous materials incidents, energy emergencies, or any emergencies with like public works, so public water systems or sewer systems. So like I said, what they don't do, so unless it's John or I that have the phone, that's not an incident or an on-scene coordinator that's packing it. It's just another employee within DEQ. So they're not going to act as a first responder, and they're not going to recommend or direct cleanup activities, but they can put you in contact with somebody who can. And they're not going to make any other notifications that are required to be made by the responsible party. So if it's something that needs to be reported to the National Response Center, it is that responsible party needs to make that call so that EPA is notified. So when we do respond with an on-scene coordinator, this is really small font, I'm sorry guys. It needs to be within DEQ's jurisdictional authority. We're also not going to self-deploy to incidents. We need to be requested by a local authority to come in and help out at a state level. And we, like John mentioned earlier, we do not have a response funding source. So what happens with that is we will then bill the responsible party for the state's costs related to that incident. But upfront, we don't come with contractors and money. One of the beautiful things about EPA responding to an incident is they come with a checkbook and contractors. So we like it when they show up. They can also waive a lot of permitting and red tape when they show up as well. So here's a few examples of incidents that we've responded to at DEQ with an on-scene coordinator. Norris Lab, the best way to describe this is anything that you can think of that could go wrong in a high school chemistry lab happened here at a huge level. The guy, chemical hoarder, was one of the descriptors that we used for him. There were thousands of containers of improperly stored chemicals, lots of acids, some unstable acids, some crystallized. The bottom picture with the wooden crates, those were acids that had been stored outside that had gone through about 30 years of freeze-thaw cycles. So we actually had Missoula County's EOD team come to help us detonate some material on site because it was too unstable to move. Little Wall Creek, this occurred in right at the beginning of COVID, so it was an interesting response. EPA was part of it as well, but they did not deploy. So, and we also had somewhat of a hybrid response. We were on scene periodically, but this one was a bunch of crude oil into a small creek with about, 18 miles of impacted?
Just under that, yeah.
Yeah. That the responsible party was using shop vacs and paper towels to clean up when they first responded. So that didn't work well, if you can imagine. And then the most recent one was the Reed Point train derailment in 2023. We were there with EPA as well. The emergency response phase for this incident lasted for about a year. So that emergency response phase closed out, it was
in June last year.
Yeah, June of last year. We're still dealing with cleanup and ongoing things related to that as an agency, but as far as the on-scene coordinator, that was a little over a year. And then incidents that occur where we don't send an on-scene coordinator, but we monitor back from the office, where we might not be on site. Coal train derailments, they look bad, but it's not a huge environmental risk. So we usually are not on scene for a coal train derailment. If we're requested, we would go, but Usually it's just scoop the material out and move on. It doesn't pose a huge water quality threat. A lot of the truck wrecks, unless there's a huge impact to water. So if a tanker truck went into a waterway, that would be a different situation. But hey, we had a truck jackknife and they spilled 75 gallons to the soil, we're not gonna go out for that either. And then another great example is I call it the beer derailment, the train derailment in Paradise. Again, not a huge environmental impact there. I know they were put out boom, but it was more to keep boaters from going in and stealing the beer. So we were not on scene for that one either. So if there's time, yeah, if there's any questions.
Maybe I missed it. What was the duty officer phone number?
You know it off the top of your head.
Yes, I do. 431-0014. And I can give you the DES duty officer phone number too, which is a good one to have. The DES duty officer phone number I can give you as well. Oh, the first one. Yeah. 406-444-0014.
Is it 444?
No, jeez, yeah. So much for knowing it off the top of my head. 431, it's right up there too, isn't it? 431-0014. I'm thinking of my office phone number.
I have a question. So you mentioned the lack of funding for orphaned materials. Whose responsibility is it?
It still goes back to the responsible party. What happens there is I will send out my very, friendly letter. You've seen a lot of letters from me over the years. We usually send out about 2 or at least 3 letters, violation letters, to the trucking company, whoever the responsible party is, telling them what what they need to do. If it gets to the point where there's no response and it's just sitting there, then we do an administrative order, sort of upping the ante. There's a penalty usually associated with that. So we push that out to the responsible party, and then we see what happens. Also send it to their insurance company to make sure that they know about it too. But often these trucking companies, it could be one guy in a truck, he wrecked his truck and he can't be found, and his insurance is does one of those. We get to the administrative order. That usually inspires them to do it, but we still have, I want to say 6 or 7 that are sitting out there statewide now, that are at that orphan stage, and they're just right now sitting there again because there is no funding for me to go out there or not me, to get a contractor out there and do it.
Right. And, primarily I'm thinking of the scenarios where, just a landowner finds something on their property. Nobody knows who the responsible party is. The responsibility then falls to the landowner in that situation.
Yes, it does. It's pretty much tag you're it, or you're found contamination here.
I mean, a lot of these end up on an MDT right away. So MDT, when they do their next road project, part of their bidding process is putting in, knowing where the spills have occurred that have been reported, so that their contractor can then deal with it when they go excavate.
I got another one for you. We've had the EPA up from the region to present to the LEPC, and they talk a lot about the resources that they can bring to bear on some of these larger incidents. And you mentioned it as well, but what resources does DEQ bring, without the EPA?
So if EPA is not showing up, well, it's going to be we call it the John and Shasta show. But we also have, the folks back in the office, technical expertise. I know very little about water quality. I know a lot about spill stuff and emergency response. But yeah, we have folks in all the different programs back there that can help us. So you ask us a question where we're doing an incident in Missoula County, we know who to call back in the office, so we can provide that. And we'll hang around as long as you want in Unified Command if you like, because we're used to doing that. We have really good, I think, experience working in Unified Command, especially on the repoint derailment. I think I always kind of toot our own, everybody's horn in that, because it works so well. Everybody's coming at it from a different angle, but we all worked together and got it resolved.
Yeah, I can add to that. Yeah, go ahead. One of the other things is if we are on scene as a state on-scene coordinator, we are the representative for the state. So we would be dealing with all of the agencies instead of you having to deal with all of the respective agencies. So that does help because then we become the representative for fish, for DNRC, for the governor's office, it's all with us. Which managing our own agency is kind of a full-time job. So when something happens, having somebody deal with all of the people at DEQ so that whoever's, if it's Missoula County, isn't getting 6 phone calls from different people within DEQ.
Perfect, thank you. I wanted to give you the opportunity to highlight the technical expertise that you guys can bring and offer to anybody who calls. So thank you for always answering the phone. All right. Thank you very much. Oh, question.
Oh, the hazmat team? Yeah. Yeah. State DES. That's where well, I'm trying to, you know what, let me get your information and I'll send you some links and stuff like that. We get some training through DES as well. We're sending some folks in our office for some more higher level ICS 300 class in Bozeman at the end of the month. And that's through Gallatin County. But I found out through state DES. So yeah, I'll get you some information.
Any other questions for John or Shasta? Well, thank you very much for joining us today and for driving over from Helena, and safe travels. Thank you very much. Okay, next up, we have our National Weather Service update. Leanne.
Hello, everyone. Leanne Allegretto here from the National Weather Service office in Missoula. I am the service hydrologist and also trained meteorologist as well. Nick asked me to kind of do a brief water year review, which spans from October 1st all the way to the end of September of the following year. And if you want more information on that, I did do a more comprehensive report on that. It's at our National Weather Service Missoula YouTube site. So if this isn't enough for you and you're curious, that link is there. And then I will also look into the future and try and guess what is going to happen with winter, but at least it's looking more like it outside, so that's a good start. So we'll start with the water year. This is the Columbia River watershed. And the states aren't highlighted, but hopefully you can kind of see where Western Montana is and everywhere west of there. So the National Weather Service office in Missoula covers pretty much everything you see west of the divide there, including central Idaho. So I'll just speak to that. But basically, if you add up all the water fluctuations, the snowpack, drought impacts, et cetera, where did we end up? Pretty much below normal just about everywhere that you can see. Only 2 places were about 90 to 100% of normal, which is up in the Flathead and the extreme corner of northwest Montana and Libby in Lincoln County. And then in our region, you can see the Blackfoot into the Clark Fork drainage has been awful for the past several years. And this is kind of a continuing pattern. It just compounds each and every year. And it doesn't happen overnight, but it's going to take a lot longer to accumulate and kind of rebound from this. So we're hoping for a good winter to help us out in that regard. And then I thought this was interesting, and I've never seen this, and I've been in Missoula for 17, 18 years with the Weather Service for 20. And on the day of September 28th, when I was compiling all this data from the end of the water year, there were 15 gauged USGS sites that were at an all-time low for that time period, for that day. And those are it. I won't go through them, but just about, it was evenly spread throughout the entire area that we cover. So this is at a gauged point for that day if you look back through its history. And each gauge has different history, the amount of historical data. So it fluctuates a little bit. But when I looked at the map and it was all red, I said, okay, this is something. So we weren't doing so well. And just some factors that helped. We did have some good snowpack, but what really, really made up a lot of ground were our wet summer months of July and August. And July is on the left, August is on the right, and you can see a huge portion that is not red. And that's well above normal, at least 100%, 130% of normal for precipitation for that time frame. And that's what we'd like to see a lot more often, but it's super great when it happens right before fire season. So we got nailed with a lot of precipitation that was super helpful. It did cause flash flooding in some places, localized minor flooding as well, but our rivers were so low and our creeks were low enough that it was able to take it. And so we did pretty well in that regard. And then what really hurt us, and I don't have them all here. It was many more than just 4 months, but we had several mostly dry and warm months. And these are just precipitation. If I were to show you the graphics for temperature trends, we were far too warm too often and we were far too dry too often. And of course, when we're talking about water supply, April and May are pretty crucial because that's when our snowpack is pretty much done accumulating and we're on to the snow melt. And I don't know if anyone's paying attention to the Flathead Lake situation. We were low by several feet. When I say we as people who live in Western Montana, I have no stock in it, but I just report on the water. But when you have water to start in April and May, and then it gets super warm at high elevation, and we don't have any rain to backfill, we lose it all, and then we don't have anything to fill up our rivers, lakes, etc. So that's what happens. So we don't want to see this in April and May, and we've seen it for like the last 3 years. So that's just a glimpse at what happened. So, okay, enough about the past. What about the future? The official outlook, if you will, that is the generalized, what's going to happen in the east side of the country, the west side of the country, that's all going to be released on the 16th. We are technically closed as a federal agency, but we are deemed exempt due to protection of life and property. The outlooks will go out, but there won't be like any press releases or website updates or anything like that. So this is, I've narrowed it down basically just for us here in the Northern Rockies. There's a lot of really intelligent people at my office that look at this a lot more in depth than myself. So I will credit them with some of the talking points. But what they do is when we try and give an outlook for the winter, we want to look at sea surface temperatures, which are the most important driver of our patterns. And currently, well, for the past several years, there was a warm blob in the ocean that was affecting how much convection or thunderstorms, moisture, et cetera, clouds, that was contributing downstream, which is into our area. So analog speaking, if you're to go back and look at all of the years of historical data and find a year that looks similar to the setup going into this year, 2021 and 2022 looks very similar. So if we look at those 2 years, or that winter, the Pacific is currently mimicking that. The warm blob has kind of dissipated. We're seeing convective trends out in the far Pacific that mimic that year, which, given the spinning planet that we are on, everything will come our direction. And then what can we gain from that? The analogs for 2021, 2022 showed a predominantly wet and cool November through January. And we are on that track now. We're looking at a wet and unstable, like unsettled October, which we've begun, thank you. And then we kind of flip a switch. We always seem to see a dry period in January, just climatologically around here. But if we were to follow the similar trends that are mimicking what we're seeing now, we would extend that drying trend through the early spring months. So like February, March, April. We also saw a lot of, I should say, more frequent Arctic outbreaks. So the cold air that comes down out of Alberta butts up against east of the divide and comes over into Flathead and then south into us if it's a deep enough layer of cold. We saw more frequent occurrences of that. And then winter 2021 also had frequent atmospheric rivers, so those giant walls of water that hit California and Oregon and Washington that trickle over into our area. That would be great if it lined up with some cold air from those Arctics. We would get a lot of snow. So will it happen? Will it not? I don't know. The mountains always have the final say. That's what I've always said. But these are the trends that we're looking at. And I threw this last note in there because we've been saying La Nina for the last 3-4 years, et cetera, et cetera. What has the last 3 or 4 La Ninas done? Nothing. They've underperformed, right? So, okay, 71% probability of a La Nina. What does that even mean anymore? Well, I don't know. But here, we're trying to keep it more focused. We're going for analogs. We're looking at what actually happens here in our side of the state and into Idaho. And this is the bullet points I thought would be actually useful to tell you today. So, these are the more generalized patterns, but they line up with what we're seeing. This is the Climate Prediction Center, also part of NOAA. These are December, January, February, so kind of a median of all three of those months. Temperatures on the left, precipitation on the right, cooler and wetter. That's good. It's lining up with what we said. And then next slide is February, March, April. There's some overlap there with the February, but we're looking at below normal temperatures, a trend of, that doesn't mean it won't get warm, doesn't mean we won't have sunny days, just a trend, and then above normal precipitation. And then I think there's one more. Yeah, and then we kind of get out of that and we get into that period where we may or may not see a dry spring if things line up. So as it stands, when the map is white, it means equal chances, which tells you nothing, but that would mean climatologically normal. So take that as you will. Yeah, what is normal? We don't know. Normal's not a great word to use. Historically, you know, it's Montana. I think that's all I have today for you. I tried to make it brief, but if you have questions, I can't stay. I got to get back to the office because I'm technically not even supposed to be here. But we love our partners, and hopefully this helps people plan. If you have questions, you can always reach us 24/7, holidays, the whole nine, we're always there. And you can get us on that phone number there, extension 1, or we're on a plethora of social media and the YouTube. If this sort of thing interests you, we have weekly briefings twice a week that we throw up on there for whoever wants to watch them.
All right, thank you, Leanne. Any questions? All right, well, as always, we very much value and appreciate the relationship that we have with the National Weather Service here in Missoula, and they're always gracious with their time, even when things are a little chaotic for
Of
them.
course.
So,
No, we're always here. We thrive in chaos.
thank
Give
you
us a
so
call,
much.
email me if you need to. We're always there.
Thank you. Oh, no, I totally get it. Perfect, thank you so much. Okay, next up, Matt wants to give a brief update on floodplain.
Thank you. Yes, very brief update. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Matt Heimel. I'm the floodplain administrator for Missoula County. And I want to let you all know we've probably talked a little bit now and then about updating floodplain maps for the past several years for the Clark Fork, Bitterroot, and Rock Creek. And I'm sorry for whoever's behind there, can't really see me. But so FEMA has issued preliminary maps for the Clark Fork, Bitterroot, and Rock Creek within Missoula County and the city of Missoula. Those maps are also finalized in Granite County. And these maps would replace former floodplain hazard maps, which were based on data from the late 1970s, early 1980s. So we have preliminary maps. We are working on having much more information roll out within the next few weeks on the county website, Missoula County Voice, which is our public engagement site. And we'll have just a lot of information to go through. And I do plan on coming back in the January LEPC meeting, right? It's January. Okay. And I'll provide a presentation that's a little more targeted for LEPC and also under the context of mitigation planning. So I just wanted to come over from the office and let you all know that those are here. Of course, you can always contact either myself or Cassie Trippard, the city floodplain manager. And in the meantime, if there's any specific questions, but be on the lookout for more information being published soon about our floodplain maps. Thank you.
All right, thanks, Matt. Just for context, when did Missoula County start this process of remapping?
Oh, this started in 2019, I believe. Oh, 2019 about to start. So it takes a while to update floodplain maps, and we're still in the process. It might be another couple years until they're final. So there's that.
Any questions for Matt? All right, thank you very much.
I'll be back in January.
Okay, moving on to next item is emergency alerts issued this quarter. It looks like we had 6 original alerts initiated from responders in the field. We had 2 test alerts, and then each of those original alerts that were sent out, these are the targeted alerts that our shift supervisors, there's a situation going on that they want a specific area of town or a specific area in the county to be aware of, they will initiate those alerts. They go to those registered individuals out in that area, and then they typically will send a resolution alert once that situation has resolved. So there's the corresponding alerts for those. All right, next up is standing committee reports. The IMT Oversight Committee, the Western Montana All Hazard Incident Management Team was deployed a couple times, more than a couple, 3 times this summer for wildland fires, starting in late May and then just wrapping up here last month. The Oversight Committee will likely convene this winter, not only to look at the roster, but also look at our recruitment and retention strategies for that incident management team, as well as beginning to look at the spring 2026 team exercise. Access and Functional Needs Committee, Julia.
Thanks, Adrian. Hi, I'm Julia, the Public Health Emergency Preparedness Coordinator at Missoula Public Health. I oversee the AFN subcommittee as well as the HEAT group, so I'll be reporting out on both of those. So AFN met just a few days ago. Some highlights from that meeting is that over at the state, they held G197, which is a specific access and functional needs class for ICS. And I'm really hoping that's something we can bring over to Missoula. So if that happens, I'll let you all know. So it's a really great class. We've also had some partner meetings. So we kind of meet as a whole group. And then every quarter we invite in a specific partner to talk about what they do and how that corresponds with the access and functional needs community. And this last quarter, we had Christy Scheel from Missoula Public Health talk about the brain health initiative that she's starting. So our health department is looking more at aging and dementia as a public health concern. So we learned quite a bit of that from her. And then we will be having, I'm hoping 911 dispatch this next quarter, and then hopefully also meeting with RAVE, our panic and alert system that we use here. I think they're going to be updating some of their software and things. We want to make sure that access and functional needs is baked into everything that they're doing as well. Looking at HEAT, we met back in August. Some kind of highlights from that meeting, the Healthcare Coalition is really going through some funding struggles. They're still here, they're still kicking, but their capacity might be a little limited in the future, especially with in-person meetings, but virtually will continue to be strong. Because of summer, we had an uptick in vector-borne diseases. So we had a case of West Nile and also, I think, a fatal case of Rocky Mountain spotted fever. Missoula Public Health has in the past and continues to increase testing at HIV and hepatitis C at J Street, but now that J Street is closed, moving over to the main POV site. And then we've also been investigating a pretty large Strep A outbreak and had the CDC come and partner with us to do some investigation in that. So it's kind of the big things coming out of the HEAT group. Also speaking of Missoula Public Health, we have a highly pathogenic avian influenza tabletop on December 15th. It's going to be led by DPHHS. They're coming to us in person. So if you or a partner want to be involved in that, you can grab me after this meeting. It's really targeted for healthcare professionals and then anyone in agriculture, even if you have just like a backyard flock and you're worried about bird flu and the jump to humans. Also, if you're involved in any kind of lab transport, that would be a great tabletop exercise to come and hang out with us. Unless there's any questions, I think that's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. All right, moving on. Just an update on the mobile command vehicle. 2.5 years ago, we received a Homeland Security grant to build a mobile command vehicle for our community to be used by our first responder agencies. Through a lot of back and forth with kind of the grant funding being turned on and off, as well as just the supply chain issues and everything else, we have finally completed that build out. The mobile command vehicle right now is being housed. It kind of flip flops between Missoula City and Missoula Rural Fire District in conjunction with the flip flop of some of our hazmat assets, just to ensure that it's in cover and available for use. So next steps right now are just getting it out to the agencies to make sure that they're familiar with all of the components in that, as well as conducting some driver operator training so that we can ensure that when we do send that out, we're sending it out not only with someone who knows how to drive it, it's very, very large. It probably will get stuck under the Orange Street underpass at some point in its life, but also that we're sending that out with individuals who know how to set it up and operate it. We were very deliberate in working with our public safety agencies, various departments, various equipment needs, to really try to make this a shell that was technology agnostic, and so that whatever new gadget someone had, that it would be a place where they would be able to plug it in and make it work. And so it really is a mobile command vehicle to provide that space and that technology to do the work that needs to occur on an expanding incident that may last more than a day or two. Certainly also an opportunity to provide a safe place for people to gather and have meetings when we have inclement weather as well. So we're excited to get that kind of rolling. Driver training will be the next step, as well as working with our response agencies to look at the call types that they would want that vehicle to be on the automatic dispatch list for, rather than waiting for it to be requested. Any questions on mobile command vehicle update? If your hand's raised behind the pillar, I can't see it, so just do some jumping jacks back there. Okay, moving on to the THIRA and SPR meeting. So every year we have to go through and do a threat hazard risk analysis that is based on Missoula County and Missoula City. And we do that hopefully with lots of people that want to help contribute to that analysis. So this year, we're going to do that on the 27th of this month. We'll be meeting in the EOC conference room, which is directly below this room that we're sitting in. If you want to attend that virtually, you can reach out to Nick Holloway and he can send you a meeting invite. It typically takes about an hour. We go through the hazards that we're most likely to face. It's a FEMA form, so it is a little dry, but it is an opportunity to just have some dialogue about, what are our hazards and how are we going to address those. Moving on to grants, obviously with the government shutdown, some grants are in limbo right now, as far as waiting for awards or waiting for a notice of funding opportunities. But we do have several open grants, as well as some that we have been notified that once the federal government does reopen, we will see that funding probably be awarded. So in Homeland Security, these are funds that come from the Department of Homeland Security to the states, and then the states do subrecipient awards to local jurisdictions. We have 3 current open Homeland Security grants from previous federal fiscal years that are still active, and we're able to continue with those initiatives. One is a statewide grant that Missoula County hosts, and that is for kind of leadership and development training, primarily with our first responders, but also with essential community members that may need to fulfill roles within an incident command system. And so we've been able to work quite a bit with Tim and his group with the community emergency response teams in sending him all over the state, as well as his cadre of instructors to really create CERT teams organically in some of these other communities across the state, as well as lots of different ICS incident command system trainings. Next week, we're hosting what they call it 0305, which is a week-long course. In the intent is it's a pretty intense course for those different command and general staff positions to go through an incident. That course is going to be over in Helena, and we have really good participation from a really diverse group of local government, state government, and community members that will be participating in that over the course of that week in Helena. The other two Homeland Security grants that we have open is not super exciting probably for this group, but an essential gap that was identified within county government was the ability to rapidly lock down some of our facilities. And so we're utilizing Homeland Security grant funding to put that technology in place so that our county facilities can be locked down almost immediately if there is an external threat. And then additionally, anybody who was at the election center during the last federal election and saw the line queued all around the block, into the dark, into the wee hours of the morning, we've been able to secure some emergency lighting that will assist with those larger election events to provide a safer, more well-lit environment for those queued lines outside. But also these emergency lights will be available for deployment to other types of incidents that occur within our community. And with that, Tim, do you want to give an update on the CWDG, the Community Wildfire Defense Grant? And the BLM, yeah. That one might not, I think it just went dead.
Good afternoon. What's on? Oh, this is funny. I don't like microphones anyways, but this is pretty interesting. So as mentioned previously, Tim LaRoche with Missoula County's Wildfire Mitigation Program. We've been working with Community Wildfire Defense Grant that we got just over a year ago, $4.8 million. To date, we've spent about $700,000, but we're just getting going. We finally have our players in place. We have our team built. It's taken this long to find the right four people to go forward on what I'm calling the rocket ship. I'll get to that in a second. But so continue to offer veg management projects to countywide, other than Lolo, Frenchtown, and Clinton. We were not able to get permission to include those communities in our grant due to the way the Forest Service gave out the grants. At any rate, we're working, so our BLM grant covers Clinton. We're focusing our BLM grant on Clinton. At any rate, that grant is for a 75-25 cost share. So the county pays 75% of the veg management around structures, and the homeowner pays 25%. What that allows us to do is engage in conversation, education, empowerment with those homeowners about what they need to do, their responsibility as far as the home and the home ignition zone directly around the property, which has been shown to protect communities or reduce the risk of structures and assets during wildfires. And so I'm going to steal some of, so with our BLM grant, it's $75,000 per year for 5 years. We've spent about, let's see, $45,000 of that in the Clinton and Tura area over the last year. And then I'm going to steal some of Karen's thunder here because it pertains. So the Community Wildfire Defense Grant we got a year ago, it was in two parts. One part of it is to help fund an update of our Community Wildfire Protection Plan, which is in motion. We've hired a contractor and we have a kickoff date, I believe sometime next month. You'll hear more about that as we go on. And then Karen also was awarded a $1.2 million Community Wildfire Defense Grant to build out the planning part of our program, and which is why I'm now calling it the rocket ship that we are on, because we have a lot of work to do. But what this does is it completes kind of the circle of a voluntary program looking towards a regulatory program, and eventually the whole program living under lands and communities. Any questions? Thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Put you on the spot, but that was a great update. The last grant that I'll talk about is the HMGP, the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program. We did submit 2 grant applications, actually 3 grant applications came out of Missoula County, one from the city of Missoula to do an inventory of the urban forest. So HMGP funding, hazard mitigation grant funding, is released to the states following a declared disaster. And so in July of last year, we had our windstorm, which we did get a presidential disaster declaration on, which triggered some money that became available within the state of Montana for hazard mitigation. And so as the impacted community, we did have priority on some of those funds, and so we wanted to take advantage of that. Parks and Recreation really identified a need to have a better inventory and assessment of the overall urban forest health. And so looking at HMGP funding to initiate some of that project in a phased approach. And then additionally, out of Missoula County, in collaboration with the city, we submitted 2 grant applications. One is to update the Climate Ready Plan that exists for both the city and the county of Missoula. That plan is about 5 years old and needs a new kind of science primer to look at our climate, to look at what is happening and how we can be more resilient to those changing forces. And then the other application was to actually start doing some of the work that has been identified not only in our pre-disaster mitigation plan, but also in the Climate Ready Plan. So some of the initiatives around clean indoor air and heat resilience. More to come on that. We have no idea when it's even going to be reviewed at this point, but hopefully we'll be successful in at least one of those, if not all 3. Okay, upcoming trainings and exercises. We have the draft multi-year training and exercise plan that was just completed with the help of many of you who either participated in some meetings with our office or responded to surveys around kind of gaps or trainings that you thought were needed. That draft plan I will send out to the distribution group following this meeting, and please provide any comments or feedback. It's a living plan. It's never really cemented with the trainings that we're going to be doing in 2026, 27, and 28. But certainly would appreciate any insight or feedback or anything that you think we're missing to incorporate. That being said, there is a tabletop exercise for the Painted Rocks Dam, a high hazard dam that if it were to fail would have impacts in Missoula. But the exercise will be down in Ravalli County on the 5th of November. Anyone who's interested in that can reach out to myself or Nick, and we can get you in contact with the organizers of that, but we will be participating. All right. Local and state hazmat incidents since in the last quarter. I saw Ken, is he still here? Excellent, all right. Straight from the chief's mouth. Nothing's happened, it's all good. And then there is a regional hazmat meeting. The CERC will be meeting on the 9th of November over in Helena. They are going to make that meeting virtual, I believe. So anybody who is interested in attending as a member of the public can go to Montana DES's website, Ready and Safe Montana, and find the information for that meeting if you're interested in joining. All right. That takes us through all of our normal business. This is the opportunity for roundtable, any agency updates, any trainings or exercises that you're conducting within your agency that you'd like the community to know about. Please raise your hand and I'll bring you the mic. I'll just start calling on people too. Going once? Twice? Okay, well, that concludes our regular business for the Local Emergency Planning Committee. Thank you, everybody, for coming. And our next meeting will be in January, not July. So, thank you, everybody.